Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Maine again, this time with a post-commentary. I've had some really good matches in this ship that I have to share with you guys, and some more thoughts. I've played over 20 games with this ship already, and only one stream, but still we're able to get quite a few decent matches out of this thing. It, of course, is the Super Montana, the Tier 11 Super Battleship on the American tech tree. And I think it's really good, honestly. I really do. I find it to be one of the stronger, if not the strongest, super battleship in the game. Although, if you know me, I'm not a huge fan of most of the other super battleships. A lot of them have this strange phenomena where you go up to Tier 11, this super ship tier, you gain a few guns, but you lose accuracy and gun reload. So it doesn't really feel like a tier upgrade when it comes to your main guns. There, I misled and underled that Neptune, but we still got some really good damage. 16 guns is a lot. But the downside here, much like a lot of the other super battleships, is we have only 1.7 Sigma, so we have worse dispersion compared to the Montana. And a lot of the time, that results in salvos that feel a lot like Monty salvos. At its best, Maine salvos are way better than Montana salvos. But at their worst, they can be a lot worse than Monty salvos. They're just more RNG dependent than Montana. And that's a little unfortunate. I was hoping for more consistency out of this ship with more guns. Going from the Tier 9 to the Tier 10, for example, just Iowa to Montana, you gain 3 guns as well as keeping that same accuracy and reload. So it feels a little awkward to, again, have a bump in number of guns, but then losing some reload and accuracy at the same time. It just doesn't really make too much sense to me. Yet that is how they seem to be going about these super battleships. But that's just the guns, which is a pretty major component of a battleship, but not everything. The tankiness on this ship is a definite upgrade. This ship just does not die. It's kind of ridiculous how tanky this ship is. I like it a lot for that reason. I think it's really good that this ship has an above water citadel that's relatively easy to hit at closer ranges, but if you stay angled and you're taking HE damage, you're gonna live a long time. If you're positioning your ship well, you're gonna live a long time. And I like that a lot. I think it rewards you for pushing a little bit more than most of the other battleships in the game. In fact, I would say this is up there with Kremlin and Unicum as far as being the tankier battleships in this game, just because it has so much HP, healing, armor, and these special consumables. These combat instructions here give you a nice 65% reduced fire flood damage, I think. Nice dev strike there into the Iowa. A little bit of RNG. First salvo, only one citadel into him. Next salvo, it's a dev strike. You can see that. But it's still getting some really nice damage. Of course, I'm going to show you my best games here in this video, but I have played it a lot. It has let me down at times. But this combat instruction is really nice. It allows you to very aggressively use your damage control, and even after your damage control is on cooldown, you're not afraid of eating multiple fires. In fact, in some of the earlier videos on this ship, before I was able to play it some more, at the NDA release, I had that quad permanent fire on my ship, and it didn't do that much damage to me, just because of these combat instructions. They're very powerful for tanking HE damage. It allows you to more easily push into things like a Smolensk and not be as afraid of just being burnt down very quickly. I overled this guy as well. I was expecting him to quickly try and get behind the island and use that as cover. He slowed down and turned out instead. Sometimes we do miss those. Sometimes you do have to guess a little bit when it comes to aiming. But we're still having a good time in this ship, this game. The tankiness is great though. I do want to reinforce that, so much so that I'm not taking fire prevention. I've kind of got a more optimized build now. I did try the AA build out some more, and it didn't really perform all that well, so not really worth picking up those points. And I think we knew that. AA is just kind of mediocre to bad on basically everything, even if this ship on paper should have decent AA. The other thing is the secondaries. I tried it. You saw how well that video went. I don't think secondaries are a way to go with Maine. I think you want to be focusing on the main guns and playing at medium ranges and really trying to maximize your gun power. Notice I'm not firing here. This Annapolis is locked into staying angled to us, basically. We're a very scary threat as far as AP damage goes if he goes broadside. So I'm just wanting to hold him broadside to all my teammates that are in our spawn at the moment. It's kind of the idea here. Or if he decides to turn away, well, then I'm going to shoot him in his broadside and hopefully kill him. I'm not always going to shoot on cooldown, especially with this longer reload. We want to pick our shots carefully. He's going to get smoked up, so I decide to fire, and we get possibly the luckiest dev strike I've ever seen. So maybe it goes both ways. If you haven't seen it, Annapolis Citadel is very, very skinny. It's one of the gimmicks of that ship. There's just a large black hole armor. And when you're shooting at it at its bow or at its stern, it's not the whole width of the ship. It's only the very center portion. It's really weird. So we got pretty lucky to get a Citadel there. Broadside Smolensk. This time we're not going to mislead. As we know, he's going at relative full speed. Flat broadside. 3 overpins. Oh, we got back turrets. Back turret, best turret, right? No, 2 more overpins. It's a Smolensk, I know, but I can't help but feel a little disappointed there. But that's okay. We have a broadside Wisconsin or Izumo to shoot at. Maybe those will go a little bit better. We're getting low, certainly. We are getting low here, but these heals are just so massive. Nearly 30k HP out of these heals. Not a super heal like the Conqueror Devastation would have, but that is a very, very substantial heal regardless. And considering our ability to tank through HE damage, it's really a lot of HP on this thing. I've had fairly regularly above 3 million potential damage in this ship. I don't know exactly what I'm averaging, but it would be close to that. It'd be well over 2.5 million potential damage in this ship just because it survives for a very, very long time. No Citadel in on that Wisconsin, unfortunately. I think that ship might have just like an underwater Citadel, like a couple decks underwater, so that's a little annoying. Still managed to get good damage though. Broadside Izumo though. There we go, that's a little better. So 3 dev strikes in this game already. Feeling pretty good. That's also our Confederate with Halsey. That is significantly going to help out this ship if you can run Halsey. And if you're getting the Maine, you probably already have Halsey, considering how late game or end game this type of ship is. Super ships are just generally for players who have been playing the game a lot longer. So you should have Halsey already. So running him on Maine is very, very, very good. Not only for the turret traverse, but also for that, nice reload buff anytime you're getting a Confederate. And I found myself reasonably often getting Confederates just because of the extra damage we get out of these guns. I don't know. It seems to do a reasonable job of getting good damage. Maybe it's that I'm able to push a little more than I'm used to, just because the ship's tankier, but I've had some really, really nice matches in this thing. I think it's very, very strong. Overall, though, I don't know if the gunpowder is that much better than Montana, but it's that extra tankiness that allows me to stay at closer ranges that means this ship can do a lot more. You can play more aggressive, you can be more forceful, you can carry your team in that way where you're just applying a lot of pressure to the enemy team, leading the charge, and you can win games that way, even if your guns aren't necessarily performing as well as you might like. In this case, we are slowing down and turning in, a little worried about the gearing there. Our torpedo protection is very, very good. Over 50% torp protection is very good, very nice to have. But still, if we can help it, we don't want to be eating torpedoes, as that is unhealable damage. A lot of the time, I actually found myself getting into situations like this where I'll have heals remaining, but I won't be able to heal back everything. So it's not like you want to be running necessarily the full 6 heals. I did try that a little bit, but oftentimes I was getting into situations like this where it's not full heals anymore. And I'm still going to take this heal because we're getting low. That was quite a hit from the GK, to be honest with you. And we get 26 into him. I mislead this one. I didn't expect him to just ground flat broadside. So unfortunately it goes a little far in front, but that's still really nice damage. Over 300k damage already. This is my best game that I've had in this ship so far after 20, 25 games or so. Pretty solid stuff to get over 300k already. Especially considering some of the matchmaker, some of the meta these days is so passive. So if we're relying on 406s at tier 10, tier 11, and people are playing more passive, it can be tough to get some damage. But here we had a pretty good time. Not quite the Kraken, but still 12 Citadels out of this thing, 3 dev strikes. Feels good. I'll be honest, before this game, I was not happy with this ship. This was going to be a much different post-commentary, pseudo-review, I guess, of this ship after I've played so many games. I was not happy with this ship and how it was performing before this game, just because I wasn't feeling like the guns were consistently punishing broadside ships. And then I had this one, which did certainly do that. And then over time, I found myself just feeling like it was a Monty, gun-wise, where we are able to punish broadsides most of the time, and that the extra tankiness just allowed me to play it like a more aggressive Montana. And that's a good thing, I guess, right? As far as what you want to see out of the next tier, the same playstyle is good to have. And allowing you to tank more is nice. As we know, the damage increase at Super Ships tier is pretty substantial. Annapolis Condi are pretty amazing upgrades over Henry and Des Moines as far as their damage output. Super Carriers are kind of insane as well. So nice to have extra tankiness against that. And specifically the fires, right? A lot of damage can be done to a super battleship through fires because they're percentage based. And that really doesn't care about your extra HP because just each fire is going to tick for more. Shooting at DDs in this ship is actually a really, really good idea. And it's fine to have AP because you're going to do a lot of damage if you get those hits. 16 shells. And for whatever reason, the way this game works is you have your best possible dispersion as a battleship. I think it works on as cruisers too, but whenever you're shooting at DDs, it always feels like my dispersion is just a little bit tighter. I don't know if you guys felt like that, but it certainly seems that way to me, which is a little odd, considering I really want that dispersion against broadside cruisers, for example, or broadside battleships. It's weird, but it does allow you to do a lot of damage to DDs. And hey, even with, well, that was pretty good dispersion, I'll be honest. We'll take a dev strike there. Getting more aggressive, getting into caps like this, pressing the issue with the enemy team is going to allow you to get more broadsides. Just look at how many broadsides I've been getting in these games, right? It's just allowing me to play more aggressively and find those gaps in the enemy's lineup or their positioning that allows me to find these broadsides. And I like that. I really do. I find myself in Hanover and Satsuma, Patrie, not being able to survive in a lot of these positions where Maine does allow me to live, just because it's so much tankier. That percentage damage allowing us to reduce it at as these combat instructions are activated, that special fire damage, right? It allows the ship to feel like it does actually have more HP. A lot of the time, if you're playing your Hanover, for example, or your Satsuma, and you get those permanent fires, suddenly that extra HP over those tier 10s doesn't feel like that much when it's ticking down so much quicker. The AA can shoot things down. I got struck a couple times already by that Kearsarge, so it's just very RNG based. You can't really do much to control it, unfortunately. 20k though to a bow-on Montana. Notice I'm not really spamming HE. I'll be honest, guys, I don't know if I've shot HE once out of this ship yet. I've been really just mainlining the AP, and I've been having some pretty good games. Honestly, I should probably be swapping to the HE because it's pretty solid. Monty HE can do some pretty decent damage, as well as have some okay fire chance. It's not devastation, conqueror levels, but still decent. But I found myself, with the number of shells we get at close range specifically, we're able to guarantee more hits into those superstructures and still getting very, very nice damage, as you can see there. But that's gonna have to wait for another time, another video, as this is the last day before I'm going off to do some snowboarding, so I won't actually be able to make any new content. All the stuff you're gonna see here is mostly pre-recorded stuff that I've done before going on a vacation. So Maine is gonna have to wait. This is gonna be the end of it for a little bit. I'll be back early, beginning of next month, I suppose. A Confederate high caliber again with the Maine. It feels good to get those Confederates, man. That is a main weakness of this ship, like I mentioned, having that worse reload compared to your tier 10. Just get a Confederate with Halsey, and then it doesn't matter as much. Kind of crazy that we didn't do more damage to a Minotaur. I feel like at these angles, we should be just smashing him even, right? It's just overmatched through his bow. Got a very, very large citadel. And again, we get bounce, 3 hits. It's decent, right? It's decent, but also a little disappointing at times. And for the most part, that is how I would describe Montana guns as well. So it doesn't feel like too much of an upgrade. And speaking of downgrades, actually, this ship doesn't have a spotter plane. So if you're trying to blind fire someone in smoke, or you're wanting to get that little bit of extra range to shoot at the enemy carrier or something like that, you don't have a spotter plane. It's really weird that they didn't give it a spotter plane. I don't understand why it doesn't get one. Feels like that's kind of a staple of this line, is you just get a spotter plane and really good range and punishing ships in smoke and broadsides at really long ranges if they're stationary, or carriers, right? Carriers when they're broadside at range. Nice to have that extra spotter, and we just don't have it here. It's kind of odd. 3 bounces on a Minotaur. It's blind fire, sure, but 3 bounces is the hits we get. Some good and some bad. And keep in mind, these are the 2 best games that I've really had so far with this ship. At least when I was initially streaming it on the NDA release day. Iowa turning broadside. We got to shoot a little earlier than I want to, just to get these shells to clear the island. And we get 30k and a Citadel. That's very nice. But notice the number of hits. A lot of the time, the number of hits are similar to what Montana would get. That's another reason I found these guns to feel just a lot like Monty. Even though we have the more guns, that worse dispersion means we're hitting about the same number of shells with maybe a slightly worse reload. It's a Monty with more tankiness. I've said that many, many times already, but that is truly how I feel about this thing. Kearsarge goes down. Very nice to see. No Citadel, but we had enough damage to take him out. And to the end of this game, Iowa might be broadside to us, but he's turning in. So I'm actually going to shoot at the DD. How much damage do you think we can do to a destroyer with our AP here? This is a good test. It's a small end. It's not the biggest DD, but also not the smallest. So depending on the number of hits here, we can get some good damage. 11 hits is 17,000 damage. Nearly dev struck him with AP. So AP's pretty good into these DDs, man. Don't be afraid to shoot AP, especially since HE will often saturate sections of the ship. Or if you hit modules like guns, torps, things like that, it's just going to do no damage to the actual HP pool. It'll knock that module out, but you're not going to take damage to the HP pool when the HE shells hit you there. So interesting. You might want to keep AP against DDs as well. You just have so many shells that allows you to do some really nasty damage to them. Nice little 3.4, nearly 3.4k base XP game. It's good, man. It's good. But I do find the guns not being a clear upgrade over Montana to be just a little bit of a disappointment. But it certainly is an upgrade over Montana overall. It's just the guns don't always feel like it. But overall tankiness, the amount of pressure you can apply to the enemy team, staying alive, it is certainly much, much better. And for me, I do think this is my favorite Super Battleship. I have to play it some more, obviously, but I've already played it quite a bit, much more than I would usually have played a new ship at this time, at least recording this video. It's only Friday, so the NDA lifted yesterday for me. And typically I've only done like the first impressions and maybe one part of a stream, and that's it. Whereas this ship I've played a lot longer than that. As for the upgrades or the build that I would recommend, it's actually like looking like this. Heavy AP, getting yourself a little bit more damage out of these main guns feels very nice, as well as Furious for that extra bit of reload to help out the guns as well. With these two, the guns feel much better. I still want them to be a little more accurate than they are, a little bit more consistently accurate than they are, I should say. Because when they all land, like when the shells all land, this thing smashes, right? Like we saw that already, 3 dev strikes in a single game. Crazy. But that's not most games, let's be honest. There's a reason you're only seeing the 2 best ones in this video, just because they're the most interesting and show off the ship's strengths, and that's what I want to do. Concealment as well as emergency repair, giving us those 5 nice big heals, and then concealment allowing us to have very respectable detection, very similar to Montana, only slightly worse, 0.2 worse or whatever. No fire prevention, notice, but again, that extra special combat instructions allow us to not need fire prevention and still be rather tanky. Using this to deal with those permanent fires after you use your damage control can be very, very, very strong. Upgrades wise, I've gone like this. I want the extra range simply to shoot at carriers and things at very, very long range. I miss the spotter plane. I'll admit it. I really do. It's one of my favorite parts about Montana. It's one of the things I got very good at when I was playing COTS and we were doing all those tournaments back in the day, cross-mapping people with those 406s. And it was great. But unfortunately, this ship doesn't quite have that spotter plane, and that's too bad. I wish that they could possibly add that. So I'm going range mod. and that doesn't impact our accuracy because, of course, we're going accuracy upgrade. Now, here, I think, considering I'm not really speccing into the AA or the secondaries, I don't really care about them that much, maybe I should just go damage control party mod 1. That's something I'm going to try out. Our main guns I don't find get knocked out that often. They can, but not that often. And I was going auxiliary armaments mainly to keep the AA alive for the most part, so maybe I'll try this. We'll see. But for now, that would be mostly the build for me. And armor-wise, just one more thing to show you. It does have better armor than Montana as well. Look back here. 38mm plating on the back. So when you're kiting away, this is going to protect you from overmatch hits into your stern from a lot of the other super battleships that do have 32mm overmatch. They can't get through this. A lot of HE, if they're going to pen 32mm, that's a lot of the HE at these higher tiers. Some of it's 50, of course, things like Hindenburg or whatever, but not everyone can pen 38mm, and this is going to make you very tanky as you're kiting away. Doesn't help you when you're pushing in as much, but kiting away certainly. Compared to Monty, right, 32. So nice little bit of extra tankiness there. Monty, though, does have that nice waterline citadel, a little harder to hit that waterline citadel. And Maine, yeah, this one's definitely above water. It's a little better armored, but above water, so you're definitely going to want to stay angled. At least our turret angles are excellent. 30 degrees is very, very nice. And overall, it's good ship, man. It's very, very good. I just don't like the trend of these super battleships being add one more gun to each turret of the tier 10 ship and then give it worse Sigma and a worse reload. And that's our super ship. I don't know. We've had that a couple times now. Patrie got 12 guns instead of 8. Devastation got 16 instead of 12. And then it got a worse reload and worse dispersion to make up for that. It's weird. It's very weird. I think the gun power should be a step up, and it really isn't a major step up. It is a bit of a step up, but not anything major. So that's my opinions on the main so far. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.